Major Ryan Nowlin is the Assistant Director of the President's Own Marine Band. As Assistant Director, Major Nowlin's duties include conducting the Marine Band and Chamber Orchestra in their winter and spring concert series and the summer concerts on the National Mall. As a composer and arranger, Major Nowlin has written numerous arrangements for the Marine Band, including collaborations with Kelly Clarkson and Beyoncé, which were performed at the second inauguration of President Barack Obama. As the unit's education officer, his duties include managing the educational outreach programs, including Music in the Schools, the high school concerto competition, and has been involved with the Marine Band's Young People's Concerts since 2011. Prior to joining the President's Own, Major Nowlin spent 10 years teaching in the public schools in Ohio. Major Ryan Nowlin, welcome to the CMEA Bay Section Virtual Professional Development Conference.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me and for the gracious invitation. I wish I could be there in person and speak and meet with your teachers one-on-one or as a group, but I'm grateful to have this virtual opportunity as well.
Well, thank you so much. I'd like you to just give us a brief background of some of your experience as an educator, an arranger, composer, and the assistant conductor of the President's Own as we get started.
Wow, that's a whirlwind trip, but I'll take you on it quickly. I'm from Ohio. I grew up in the Cleveland area and found music at a very young age and fell in love with it. I ended up studying horn at Bowling Green State University with Herb Spencer. He attracted me to that university, and I just wanted to study with him. He really impacted my life and my direction and my understanding and depth of appreciation for music in a way that I hadn't experienced up until that point. But my passions lied in music education. So while I devoted my time to the study of horn, I devoted equal time to the study of music education. And upon my graduation, and I think against my horn teacher's wishes, I decided to pursue a music education and took my first job in Ohio, and I was very excited and thrilled. And as you'll hear from my story, all in and continue to be all in on music education and the next generation of musicians. But I took this job in southeastern Ohio, Jackson City Schools, where I was assistant director and director of the marching band, and also taught the beginning bands, middle-level bands, began middle school jazz bands, music appreciation classes like this. I was there for 2 years and then decided to go back for my master's degree at Bowling Green State University again. And I pursued music education conducting there. While I was there, I decided to write a thesis on, of all things, composers' perspectives on writing for young and middle-level bands. I just was passionate about that age level, and I was curious how composers came up with their ideas and approached the music. So I made that my thesis subject and interviewed the top composers based on whose music was most represented on lists that determined quality and things like that. Interviewed several composers, and the number one on that middle school list was none other than Anne McGinty, who I struck up a wonderful relationship with on that first interview and phone call, and she quickly became a dear friend and mentor, and really a composition teacher, an arranging teacher, and she's just been a major part of my life. After I was finished with my thesis, I continued to teach at the university for 1 year as an instructor. And at that following Midwest, Anne McGinty took me, in my thesis, I should say that I interviewed all of these composers on their approaches to writing. And then the culmination was to write a piece for a middle school band based on what they had said. So that following Midwest, Anne McGinty took me around the clinic with my piece. She was very, very kind and I met some wonderful people and introduced me to Bruce Pearson at that point. And Bruce was very interested in my piece, and unbeknownst to me was looking for a co-author for a method book at that point. And that's how that particular journey began with Bruce, was through Anne and through that thesis on how composers create music that our students are studying. Bruce too quickly became a family member, friend, and a mentor as well. So I've been very, very blessed with that and able to, privileged to share my ideas on education and pedagogy through that medium as well. My heart's still in the public schools. I wanted to teach public school again, so I left the college to teach, take a director of bands job in the Cleveland area, where I taught 5 years, director of bands. Um, Oversaw and realigned the entire program, K through 12, got to teach beginning band again, which I loved. Music theory, high school, jazz bands that were curricular. It was really a wonderful experience for 5 years. And then, very unexpectedly, I tripped over something and enlisted in the United States Marine Band. I say that a little jokingly and with all due respect and homage to this incredible organization that I have followed since my ears first started hearing band music, back to the days of Colonel Bourgeois. And anytime the band would come to town, I would hear this band. Never did I anticipate being a part of it. I was on my teaching track and my teaching passion. So all of this was very unexpected. And I couldn't be more honored to be a part of this organization in this way. The way that it happened for me was the arranger position in the United States Marine Band was open for the first time in 30 years. And you'll know the name Stephen Bulla. He's an incredible writer, arranger, composer, clinician. He's just top notch. He served here as arranger for 30 years and was retiring. I had a colleague reach out to me to let me know that there was a vacancy for arranging in the organization. And after some consultation, I decided to apply. It was a 6-month audition, and I ended up winning the audition and moving to Washington and joining the President's Own as their arranger. I did that for 4 years, and honestly, I continued to do that, just not in the official billet of staff arranger. There was a conducting vacancy that opened in 2014, and I was selected to be the next assistant director of the United States Marine Band. And unlike my colleagues who take up the conducting baton and responsibilities in this organization, they have to put down their instrument. And I'm lucky enough that I still get to write whenever time allows, which is not as frequent as as it had been, or I wish it was, but it's a treasure nonetheless. So every once in a while, for different events or guests or larger projects, I'll be able to get out the pen again and write some music for the President's Own. I've been doing that for the last 6 years now here, and it's a tremendous honor. It's a joy, and as I'll tell anybody who will listen, I consider it a stewardship. It's something I need to take care of as long as it's been entrusted to me, and I'm honored by that privilege.
Well, that's an amazing story, and I appreciate you spending some time this morning with us to share some of your insights and experiences. I wanted to jump over to, you had mentioned previously or just a few moments ago about some of your duties that you currently have within the President's Own. Do you see any of those skills transferring over into a traditional music education situation where students and teachers are working within the classroom?
Well, sure. I think that with all musical organizations, there's a lot more that we have in common than are different. I mean, and we can talk about both those similarities and differences, but I think that I would start with what translates and what might teachers, or what might we be able to empathize with teachers about. And I think that's the combination of our jobs as assistant directors here are both the artistic director of the organization and the administrative leaders of the organization. Several performing organizations have separate people in those particular jobs, and here it's consolidated into one person, which is very similar to my experiences as a teacher, and I know all of your experiences as teaching as well, that you spend as much or more, if we're honest with each other, time on your administrative responsibilities that are important, and don't get to spend as much time in the artistic realm, or in teaching cases, the blend of artistry and pedagogy, and cultivating a vision and a process to get your students to the next level. So that's definitely something that we share. Another thing that I really do believe that we share comes from the way that we make music. I'm blessed here to work with incredible professionals at the top of their game who won competitive auditions to be able to join this organization. And it has never lost on me that they are thirsty every time I get up on a podium, that they want to be creative, they want to be inspired, they want to be motivated. Not only do they want to perform their best, but their ears are always open and they're always engaged and they're always listening. And those skills that they demonstrate as performers are things that we can monitor and then also share with students, growing students, you could use in your classroom of what it means to be in an ensemble and what responsibilities do players have versus do conductors have. But what I found is similar between my teaching experiences and conducting here is that role as one who's supposed to inspire and direct music and create an aural vision and a visual image, as if the aural image was a visual experience that you could cultivate and capture and shape. I feel that was the same way, believe it or not, I know how this sounds, as when I was trying to create that vision for my fifth graders or my high school or my university ensemble experiences. It's, you know, it's apples and oranges in some ways, but that role as an educator and that role as a conductor and a leader of a musical organization is really the same. Your job is to take those people and through group work and group effort and collaboration and openness and communication and inspiration, create something that is more special because we're doing it together. And that is certainly happening in classrooms and band rooms and orchestra rooms and choir rooms all across the country. And I do feel that shared goal while I am here working with those musicians.
Wow. Thank you again.
Sure. And as you mentioned, there are numerous responsibilities with the assistant director. One is the artistic side, and of course the blend with administration. But for my own duties, programming is a large part of my job, vision for the future of the ensemble and where it's headed next, commissioning new works, new composers, of course, conducting in different places and halls all around the country. There are also many mission-specific jobs that I have, and by those I mean the Marine Band, which was founded by an act of Congress in 1798, which makes us the oldest continually active musical organization in the United States. Our primary mission is to support the President of the United States and the Commandant of the Marine Corps. So when I say mission-specific commitments, I'm speaking of those to the executive mansion and those to the Commandant, which will result in different ceremonies, events, and different engagements, receptions, and national events that I'll have a band or an orchestra at from time to time, and am responsible for leading through those ceremonies or creating that atmosphere, for example, at the White House, to make guests feel welcome and comfortable and enjoy their experience at that time. In addition to those, I also offer, I do a lot of clinics and master classes and outreach and talking to other professionals. I have a wonderful opportunity to conduct honor bands and an all-state band now and again, which is really special to me because as maybe you've gathered by now, my heart is still in the classrooms all across the country. So any chance I have an opportunity to work with young people, I will take that opportunity if my schedule allows. It's something that is very important to me. And I remember being a student when I would have guest conductors and different teachers in my life, and those experiences that I was able to feel. And I feel a responsibility to do my best to create those experiences for students as well. So that's a fun part of my duties as well. As far as my administrative duties, though, I'll share some of those with you just because I know that your load of administrative duties are massive, extensive, and never ending. I feel your pain and do share some of those now. I serve as the officer in charge of several sections of the band. I'm responsible, I'm one member of an evaluation team for the evaluation and assessment of all the members of the organization. I am in charge of all the auditions, so I oversee all the audition committees and serve on every audition panel for every vacancy that we have. I oversee several major projects as directed to include our recent trip to Japan, which was such an incredible opportunity and the first time in decades that the President's Own has been able to leave the United States. I oversee all of our educational outreach initiatives, which perhaps we can talk about a little bit later, but our music in the schools and high schools programs, our concerto competition, our young people's concerts. And on the onset of the pandemic, I oversee our virtual concert summer initiative and a lot of our other virtual engagements that we have upcoming and are happening currently right now. Coordinate all the guest artists, serve as an education officer for members of the band, and the list goes on and on. So there are a lot of administrative responsibilities that I hold in addition to those artistic responsibilities, and that blend is important and is challenging.
A lot of parallels with a public school teacher. As we're all aware, the world is a very different place than it was just 8 months ago. Among many others, your responsibilities with the President's Own include conducting various concert series, including the summer concerts on the National Mall. How has the President's Own shifted its music productions to engage with audiences over this past summer?
Well, it has been a drastic shift. It has been a drastic shift. And it's happened quickly. And like you all are experiencing right now in the classroom, a lot of it has to be created in real time. And it has to balance health and safety along with our responsibilities as a musical unit and as the Marine Band or as teachers in your community. So it was a go team sort of a moment. You know, it was how can we come together to satisfy what we feel are our mission requirements, of course, but also maintain those relationships with our patrons, with students, with teachers all across America. So this summer, and to safely execute those duties, to keep wind players safe and healthy and free of the coronavirus, which is it's a significant challenge and something we take very, very seriously. And in that end, we've taken seminars and done a lot of reading and a lot of clinics and do a lot of consultations, and we are continually trying to stay up on the science to make sure that our musicians and our staff members are not exposed in any way that we can control to the virus. So what does that mean? What does that mean that we can offer our patrons and students and teachers across the country? We started immediately by doing one-on-one clinics and master classes. This is when the pandemic shut everything down in March. When we go on tour, we do a lot of these run-out clinics. We don't have a lot of time on the road. We'll arrive to a town and then we'll play a concert that evening and we'll leave the next morning and drive to the next town. And we do that through the month of October. I bring this up because what we've mobilized are teams that we call tour educational outreach teams. And these are volunteers from the band that want to do master classes, clinics, work with students around the country while we're on the road. And we've put a team of wonderful people together, musicians in our unit, to organize those clinics while we're on the road. Well, as soon as we shut down here, we activated that team on a national level to take anyone who was interested in presenting clinics or talking to students or help band directors find ways to solve that spring conundrum, which was how to have a band virtually for the remainder of the school year without being able to plan or prepare. We wanted to offer any assistance we could there. So immediately we had dozens and dozens of volunteers taking on hundreds of clinics, reaching more than 10,000 students just in about mid-March to the end of May, sharing their skills, their performances, their insights in very formal and also informal ways to classrooms across the country. And I was very happy to participate in that program as well. While that was going on, we started to devise our summer series, what we were going to do and how we were going to get through the summer. That was the next, as we say here, the next closest bear. You know, shoot the next closest bear. And as things were developing, that was the next piece of the puzzle that we had control over, that we wanted to really design to engage safely, but also reach the largest amount of people possible. And it's a different realm than education. It's the performance realm. It's focused towards patrons and folks around the country that tour Washington and happen to come by the Capitol on Wednesday and Thursday night and hear the Marine Band. That's the spirit of our summer series. The spirit of the summer series is engaging shorter concerts, about 50 minutes to an hour, that passersby can enjoy. And we wanted to capture that spirit virtually and in a safe manner. So there are a lot of different steps to creating those videos, which I can go in a little bit later if you're interested. But we ended up doing 20 different virtual summer concerts during this series, a different one Wednesday and a different one Thursday, that were streamed through YouTube for 10 weeks over the summer. We also, while this was happening, put together a lot of these Brady Bunch videos, especially early on. I think you know the videos I'm talking about. Everybody's in a little square, and our musicians recorded their parts at home. We ordered as many microphones as we could get. It was hard to get microphones because everybody was looking for them. But a lot of our members already had a lot of technology, as I know a lot of teachers have too, their own personal technology that they're using to accomplish their own clinics and their own recordings. Well, our members were at the ready, and they were at home, and they were ready to start recording these things, and immediately in March to participate in these Brady Bunch videos that our support staff here and our recording engineers and video editors put together into those offerings. We continued individual outreach, but then we also started a program you may have seen called the Summer Practice Challenge, which was a series of very short 5-minute tips presented by some of our members to inspire kids over the summers that couldn't go to music camp perhaps, or weren't able to get into a virtual online summer music camp. These are very short snippets that are still available through our website. Little teasers of what you may do to improve your practice, but in 5-minute digestible chunks. And that whole package then is what we presented outwardly. And this doesn't include any of the mission-specific events that we were also doing over the summer, but that was to assist educators in their classrooms. It was to involve patrons that may not come to Washington, D.C. to see the band on the mall, but be able to see that side.
I did have a quick follow-up. I was curious, how many individuals or how many people within your organization work to put together one of those virtual performances? And if you want to continue on through the process and outline what it is that the Marine Band has gone through, or what the process is, how to put together a virtual video, that would be very beneficial for our membership.
Sure. Well, I'll do my best on answering those questions. I certainly can talk you through how we developed and executed our virtual summer concert series.
Sure.
When it comes to how to video edit and mix and record, I am not an expert there, but I do have, we are fortunate to have so many qualified experts here in the building. We have 3 full-time recording engineers that specialize in this and produced these videos. And so I actually encourage anybody who's interested in learning more about that and those, how they put those together specifically. Some of those engineers are offering clinics now too to teachers everywhere where they'll share some of the tricks of their trade that may be immediately useful in your classroom. But as far as, thank you. As far as the general summer concert series, once we decided to move in that direction, that we were going to do it, we needed to have small groups, of course. We needed to have groups that could be distanced. We, of course, needed to come up with the procedures of sanitization, aerosol dispersion, all of those safety elements, which I won't go into here, but that was a big part of our planning in how we could safely execute something like this. And that most directly then related to how many people could we have in a group. We certainly in our band hall, and to be able to fit on a camera, couldn't have more than 10 that were adequately spaced throughout the hall. Most, if you look at the summer series that I believe is still available on YouTube, you'll see most are far smaller than that through the course of the series. So when it came to develop the series, it was a serious Go team moment where once we decided what to do, I reached out to all of the musicians in the ensemble for those who would be interested in putting together a small group. And I outlined, what it would entail, that we're looking for summer fair concerts. We're looking for this specific length. It would be something that would be played and recorded in one take live. That would be live switched, which means our recording engineers are live switching the video during their live performance. And we have another engineer who's live mixing the audio during that live performance to go out to save that post-production time at the end. And also so they can immediately be streamed. So those parameters, and it's not really the tail wagging the dog, but it can feel that way when you have all of these things that are going to create this musical product. And I say it's not really like that because it started from that very sincere place, which is reaching out to musicians saying, these are the parameters that we're facing, but what kind of music would you like to play? What can you put together? What do you have? And the response from our musicians was overwhelming. We got many more suggestions for concerts and ensembles than we could program in 20 concerts, which I am just so inspired by in that response. But I took all of their submissions and suggestions and then worked with our team here to put together a concert schedule to propose to Colonel Fettig for his approval. So it was just a large puzzle of how do we want the 20 concerts to arc, what is feasible, what would connect with different patrons around the country. So you'll have some more classically trained chamber music that is accessible and fun, and then there are our group called Free Country playing a lot of popular numbers. We had a Celtic duo playing. We had a lot of very different kinds of styles and music that would be engaging to different audiences: brass quintets, woodwind quintets, string quartets. So that diversity of programming was very important to us as well. Once we set up the schedule, those 10 weeks became very systematic, where during the course of that week, the group leaders, whoever submitted the program, we put a musician in charge of organizing that group to put the rehearsals together. They submitted their programs with their concert proposal. They worked with our librarians. We have 6 librarians to acquire any of the music that was necessary to be able to perform and rehearse that. They came in and met when they could safely and together, or they prepared on their own and came in for the performance day. And when they rehearsed, our recording engineers were monitoring to be able to assess what microphones, what video shots they may use, how they may frame and produce those videos. And then they would come in. So if your concert was Wednesday night, you'd come in at Wednesday during the day. There was an officer producing, and it was me. I produced 18 of those 20 videos with our 2 recording engineers. 2 of the 3, they would rotate through the productions. I would be in the recording booth with the audio mixer, and then we have another room for the video, a person who was doing the live switches. The musicians would be out in the band hall. I'd be able to communicate to them over a microphone, and they'd play their show. Afterwards, that show would stream that evening, Wednesday night. The next day, the next group would come in, and we would do that. Friday night, we would do our, again, mission-specific responsibilities, which were the Friday evening parades for the commandant across the street. And then the next week, we would kind of rinse and repeat.
Wow.
And we did that for 10 weeks to produce those 20 concerts. So I mentioned the 6 librarians and our 3 recording engineers, but another huge piece of our support staff that was involved in making this happen were our 4 Office of Communication specialists. And so it's basically our public affairs. And if you hear or see anything about the Marine Band, period, it went through their hands and came from their office, to include all of the outreach that we do, all of the design of the brochures that you see or the CD covers that you see. Those are those professionals in that office that are assigned to our Marine Band, just like our musicians are. They can't be transferred, and they're solely assigned here on the same mission we are. It allows us to really develop a rapport and a community to help continue to be able to respond to crises like the COVID-19 pandemic in a quick and an important way. So it's the combination of all of the directors coming together to formulate the plan, the musicians putting together the ensembles and proposing the concerts, and then and performing the concerts, and our amazing support staff, all with their own responsibilities coming together to create those products week after week after week. So when I say go team, I mean go team.
Wow, that's a huge undertaking. I've watched many of those streamed concerts and would encourage the colleagues that I have in the Bay Area to go and utilize those resources, share them with your students. They were fabulous performances put together under extraordinary circumstances, and I applaud you and the team effort that was put together for being able to do that and sharing them with the community at large. So thank you so much for that.
No, I'm glad you enjoyed them and that they're hitting their mark for you. And I need to pass all of the kudos onto the team that put that all together.
Great.
So absolutely, thank you.
I have one final follow-up here for live streaming concerts. Is much material that educators are utilizing with our students are copyrighted and published through publishers. Do you have any insights or best practices on gaining the mechanical licenses so that we too, as educators, may publish and produce some virtual concert videos with our students?
Yes, now that is a complicated subject, and I'm not a lawyer. I need to say that
Of
right out
course.
front here. But I will share with you my understanding here. One of our 6 librarians specializes in the copyright and licensing for our organization, and has some tips and some insights to kind of scratch the surface to get you looking here. But first, I must say that mechanical licensing relates to audio only. So if you were to get mechanical licensing, that's to release a CD or to do digital downloads or things like that. And my understanding is that does not apply to the video releases that you're talking about. So what teachers should be looking for and exploring is what's called a synchronization license. There's sync licenses. And those, while mechanical licenses, we would often go through, and I know that you're familiar with companies like Harry Fox, or go through the publishers to get the mechanical licenses. The sync license is a whole different pathway and a whole different request. And for our organization, we go through the publisher. So if you're playing a piece of music and are going to live stream that music, you need to go through that publisher to see what it takes to acquire the sync license to receive the proper permissions to be able to stream that. So sync licensing and through the publishers. I also know that there are a lot of different clinics and seminars I've been seeing. I haven't had a chance to attend them myself, that are going on virtually now. And I think Hal Leonard has a few. They deal with so much of the licensing and copyright with the amount of music that it is as a publishing company that they need to approve or grant those sync licenses to. There are some of these seminars available that teachers can go in and watch the seminar and get more thorough and specific answers. But what you're looking for is a sync license and to go through the publisher to find out what that would cost. And as far as putting together the different video and audio, it is very complicated. We're very fortunate to have a team of professionals here, 3 recording engineers in our lab that specialize in this work. So one of the questions we get a lot is how, as teachers, can we do that? How can we cut that together? Because we don't have 3 recording engineers to put it together. And while I'm not an expert in this, I've talked to our recording engineers who offer clinics on this subject as well. And they tell me that there are a lot of resources available online to you now to try to figure this out. And I smile a little bit because it's like if a spark plug goes in my car, where do I go to try to figure out how to change the spark plug? It's YouTube, right? This is similar to finding ways to quick cut and to edit video, and also to stay current on what are the current trends on YouTube, how to cut it, how to mix it, how to light it, all of those things. Professionals go there continually to stay up on the trade, but also you can go there to find out how to put these together. So our recording engineers recommend taking a look at some of those how-to YouTube videos and software that they recommend that they use. Their Final Cut is one that they use, and Premiere, which is through Adobe, I believe. But once you identify the product that you want, you are able to find some of those how to put those together videos on YouTube as well. So maybe that'll be help to your teachers.
Great. Thank you for that insight again. I wanted to shift gears a little bit here. The President's Zone has a huge educational outreach program. And what are some of your favorite resources available to music educators? And how can the average teacher connect with those resources?
It's hard to pick a favorite because we're so invested in all of our educational outreach materials. And as you may have guessed, subjects that's very near and dear to my heart. But right now, we're offering so many different virtual initiatives that allow teachers and students across the country to interact personally with members of the organization. This is an initiative that went live starting October the 5th back then, but will continue until mid-November. And as long as spaces are available, but afterwards, some components of these initiatives will live on the internet as well and on YouTube. So what we designed for this fall educational outreach initiative, or Blitz, is our resources that are available to teachers from kindergarten all the way through the university level, that's a wide net, right? So we broke it up into 4 different categories. We have our high school university outreach program. And we put a team together of incredible musicians and go-getters to coordinate these clinics across the nation. And we also have a team of musicians and volunteers that are willing to donate their time to take on these clinics and their master classes through this initiative. So we have a series of well over 30 specific topics, much like you'd see in CMEA when you go and you decide which clinic you want to attend. There's a shopping list of about 37 clinics that vary from how to woodwind double or improvisation techniques or fundamentals of the clarinet or our vocalist on how to sing the Star Spangled Banner, something that she's done over and over again and has insights to. Specialty clinics like that, and general clinics for any teachers that want to have one of our musicians speak to their bands or to their trombone section or their brass section. All of those clinics are available through signing up through our website and are available on a first come, first served basis. But those are geared towards high school and for university studios as well. And there's been such an overwhelming response to that program right now. And I've always felt that one of our biggest assets of our organization are our members, and so what you get from us, which is different than just watching a video, is a chance to interact with some of these musicians and ask those questions. And that was a key component to our educational initiatives for the fall. So for the high school and university outreach, it's definitely an individual masterclass for your classes or for your students. For the K through 9 sort of range, we retooled our Music in the Schools program. Music in the Schools program here locally has been different chamber ensembles that we send out into the local schools in the National Capital Region for students and teachers, and they're engaging shows that are geared towards younger level. Well, since schools are shut down, we decided we wanted to take this program national and offer these ensembles to the country at large that are looking for ways to teach band, teach orchestra during this time, or teach general music. And those are the categories we split it into. So this Music in the Schools initiatives offers 3 different produced videos. We have one that's geared towards general music that I helped spearhead and lead with a colleague of mine here. That is we call it 30 Minutes Around the World. And it takes a variety of chamber ensembles and diverse music through the lens of musical curiosity. I've always been inspired by the musicians here, that they're continually curious and creative. And I wanted to show that in this video and allow students to experience so many different kinds of cultures and different kinds of music that may turn on so many different light bulbs. So we developed this 30-minute program that is available right now on YouTube, and also has a series of lesson resources. available to teachers, different questions and answers, different projects, different things that teachers can use along with the video in their classrooms. And then, as I said, connecting with members is such an important part of this initiative on a first come, first served basis, that we're also offering Q&A sessions with musicians that appeared in that specific video. So we did this on 3 levels. The general music one is around the world in 30 minutes. We also did it for beginning and intermediate strings. So we have a string quartet program that is just terrific, that talks about painting with strings, and it also exposes the students to a wide variety of music techniques, specific techniques on their instrument, through a wealth of diverse composers and music from around the world and from many different time periods. That is also available now on YouTube and comes with a series of lesson resources and Q&A opportunities. And then finally, we have a program for beginning and intermediate level band students. And this program is based on one essential question, which is, why do I love playing music? And our coordinator put it together using a woodwind quintet, a brass quintet, and a percussion ensemble. And each of those ensembles uses music to explore why those musicians have been attracted and have followed music, or why they specifically like the music that they're playing and engaging with. So these are opportunities for students and teachers to bring performances from the Marine Band that are specifically geared towards this age of student into their classrooms. It also provides lesson materials that are readily available to be used in the classroom for them to personalize, to make their own. They're just ideas, they're resources of ways that you may use the specific video or lesson in your classroom. And then offer Q&A opportunities, clinics with members that appeared in the video, so that when your student has a question for that specific French horn player, it's possible to get that French horn player and ask them those questions, to have that interaction, to have that connection with the Marine Band. So I'm really thrilled about those educational offerings that we have this fall.
It's amazing. So many resources, and I can't wait to delve more into them and share them with my students. And I hope many members of the Bay section will take advantage of those opportunities with their students as well. Thank you.
I know what you think, because we're really proud of
Amazing.
them.
So as our time draws close to its end, I wanted to just give you an opportunity to share a little bit, maybe more personally, about a location that you've been able to perform, or somebody that you've been able to perform with that was inspiring to you.
Well, that's a great question. And I am so fortunate to have so many just indescribable experiences through music and through my role here as an arranger and a conductor with the United States Marine Band. It's too difficult to pick. So, but what I might do is just offer a few diverse experiences to kind of show the range of things that we do, but also how special it is, and why I use the word stewardship to describe my role here. To preserve this institution, its living history, is quite the responsibility. When I'm asked this question, the first thing that comes to mind, believe it or not, is not the White House, which I have wonderful experience and stories when I may even share with you later today. It's certainly a wonderful place and wonderful experience to play. But the first thing that comes to mind are actually middle school gymnasiums while I'm on tour. I know that sounds perhaps different, because we've had the pleasure of playing in Symphony Hall and Severance Hall and all of these places, which were incredible and wonderful. But tour concerts are such a special experience, and a special experience for the musicians in the Marine Band as well. And if we're in a middle school gym, it means that we will have an audience that doesn't fit in a local performing hall, or a community that doesn't have a performing hall. And this is the space that we can get together. In these gymnasiums, the lights are on, the bleachers are out, the seats are filled, and the crowd, it becomes communal, like a community experience. And you can see their faces and they can see your faces. And everybody comes into this event kind of separated. You know, they want their seat, they've got their program, they're ready for the thing. But over the course of 90 minutes, watching that evolution of how these people start to coalesce and engage with each other is really heartwarming. and they leave. When they leave, and Stars and Stripes Forever is playing, they're speaking to each other, they're talking to each other. They have this shared experience and this shared love of country and life and each other that is very, very special. So in these moments, in these middle school gyms, I see that there's so much that unites us all through music from different walks of life and different races and religions and ethnicities, and music students and veterans and Gold Star families, and watching the veterans from the Second World War that are still coming to this concert and trying to get out of their wheelchair in so many cases to stand to their service song. Sorry, it's really impactful. And those are the memories that come to me first, is how music and this organization can really help how people feel, and really help join us all together in that very special way. So that's certainly one of my very special memories. As far as different performing experiences with different people, one is very recent, and we haven't released it yet. We performed a concert just before COVID-19 shut everything down, and that concert was with guest conductor Joan Falletta, who was remarkable. And we had several other guest composers and performers on that particular concert, one of which was Jennifer Higdon, whom I just admire and deeply respect. One of her most performed pieces is Blue Cathedral, and it's a very personal piece for her, and there's no transcription of that particular piece because it's a string orchestra piece, and she has 20, Debussy strings, and capturing that for winds is a challenge. And Jennifer entrusted that piece to me to transcribe for this particular occasion. And she was able to come into a rehearsal, and I was able to sit with her and work with her on different colors and to make sure that things were working the way that she had envisioned them for strings. And in such a personal piece for her, and in such a would turn into a very personal experience for me. It was wonderful to engage with one of the brightest and most accomplished minds, compositional minds of our time, to in real time change colors and change shapes and sounds as the United States Marine Band was sitting there playing. That is one of those experiences that I will remember for all of my life. To be able to work with Jennifer in real time on orchestration, that was amazing.
Do you have any other resources or best practices to offer music educators that may help them through the challenges that so many of our arts programs are facing? And
It's
if
a
you don't
great
want to,
question. And
there's huge numbers, but
no, we have some of the resources I described earlier, but first I just want to offer you all my heartfelt kudos and congratulations on your courage and your reinvention of what it means to be a music teacher for ensembles now. I am inspired by the stories I hear from the teachers that I talk to, from the clinics that I do, and the way that different teachers across the country are finding a way to keep music relevant to their students' lives, to keep them interested, to keep them curious, and to make sure that they continue to play even when they can't play now. So kudos to you all for taking on that challenge. So that's the biggest question, is how do you keep those students engaged, and what resources are there? I outlined some of the resources from the President's Own that are available to you. But also one thing that I found in developing these and thinking about this is that interaction is key. So having different folks and different guests and different people in your classroom to talk to your students now and again is it's a wonderful tool to use. And by that, I don't just mean, wonderful composers or conductors or open air, but I would other parts of your state to talk to your students, to engage with your students. Sometimes that different voice and that fresh approach can be really engaging to students, especially if they're learning online day after day. I found that students, as I do these clinics too, and I'm sure you've experienced, they want to be heard, they want to feel recognized and noticed, and that's very, very difficult. So finding ways to engage individually with them, if it's not possible through your particular program or your school, finding ways to have clinicians work with smaller groups of your students virtually to allow some of that online engagement. That's a lot to ask of you as a coordinator and as a teacher, but could help with their retained interest. There's a wealth of video and audio that is available, through YouTube and other resources that students can analyze, can watch, can listen to, can describe, which changes from the performance that I know that we're tasked with in so many of our music classes, but can really help spark new interests and desires and new light bulbs that maybe we wouldn't have had the time to address in performance-based classrooms that could be equally as valuable to the teachers or to the students' future. There's the performing of chamber music in small groups outside. I've always felt that, especially in education, chamber music is the silver bullet, getting people to just play with their friends on their own to coordinate programs or concerts. And there's a lot of resources available out there now that are written in 3 parts or flexible instrumentation to allow students to practice those parts individually and then maybe perform outdoors socially distanced to record them, or record and layer the tracks through different apps that have that sort of technology there. One of the other things that I was thinking about, what might I do? Because I'm not in the classroom anymore in the day-to-day. I have 3 children that are doing this as well. And irony of ironies, my oldest, he's about to join band for the first time this year, and he's going to virtual online band, which I'm excited to see how they do in our district. But one of the things that I was thinking about that could be helpful is focus and a pivot on ear training and sight singing. It's something that is so important, developing that inner ear, and that all kids, if they're isolated at home and are doing virtually, can safely sing in their environment. So to come up with different and gradually increasing difficult strategies of identifying different intervals, singing different intervals, and recognizing different intervals over time, and include that music singing and reading from at home that doesn't take their instrument if they're don't have access to their instrument, would really be helpful in a host of ways. One of the biggest is building that oral skill so that when they do pick their horn back up, they can continue and have that image in their mind. So I think that that's a real opportunity there, is sight singing and ear training. Of course, there's music theory, there are arranging exercises, there are score copying, which is a terrific opportunity for especially even young students, even if it's a line of music, to recreate that music on their own manuscript paper, to really feel how those intervals and the steps and the skips may look or feel, the length of the stems, the stem direction, interacting in a physical way with that music. And there are a lot of software that have music notation software that have free access or lower cost access. And this will allow students to have all of those skills and apply them in different ways and engage in different ways to keep them active and to feel individually heard, because now they'll have individual projects that you'll be able to respond to them one-on-one on, and they'll feel like they're contributing in a way. So not anything anybody signed up for, but perhaps those are some things that you could use immediately in your classes moving forward. I congratulate you all on taking on these challenges and finding ways to inspire your kids. And for what it's worth, you inspire me by the way that you're finding a way to tackle these challenges. So thank you.
Wow. Well, Major Ryan Nowlin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend a brief moment with the members of the CMEA Bay section.
It's been a pleasure, and it's been an honor to talk with you and to meet all of the teachers out there viewing this video. Please reach out. I'd love to meet you in person someday when safety allows, and I'd be happy to work and assist in any way I can in your classrooms. Thanks so much.